Welcome back to Anthony's Career Advice. This is part 2, focusing on interviewing, so let's get to it. This question that I'm going to tackle first is one that you will hear, and it says something like, why did you apply to this role, or better yet, why should we hire you? It can sometimes happen at the beginning or at the end of the interview, but you want to answer it the same way, regardless of its positioning. And really it's a focus more so not just on you summarizing why you think you're a good fit or what skills you bring or what your accomplishments are. That's an important piece. That's maybe about 50% of the answer. What you really want to focus here on is saying, here's what I've learned about your organization. This is where the research kicks in. This is where you can say something like, well, you should hire me, or let's start with that one. You should hire me because I've spent some time doing research and understanding what you guys do in greater detail, what your size of your share is in the market, if there's any annual reports, anything that you can comment about what you've learned about them in the news that can kind of tie back into why you were interested in applying to them, which leads to you sharing why you believe it's a perfect fit because of your skills and your experiences, why they should consider you. It's pretty much them just wanting to hear what you've learned about the organization. That's the default around it. And then you pepper in how your accomplishments and your skills tie in. There will be some repetition here because chances are you're going to be highlighting your skills and your competencies when answering behavioral style interview questions. But that's okay, because the main focus here is, what did you learn about the organization? If you do that, you're going to wow them enough to think about you after you leave. And they will do that because they only really think about two people. The ones they're going to consider and the ones that they're surprised even got their foot through the door. Okay? And you want to be one of the people that they consider. So do your research, because if you don't, they will know, right? And it's important. It's not just about understanding what you bring, it's understanding what they do and finding that fit. If you do that, you're answering that question very well and increasing the likelihood of them saying yes as opposed to no to you. Now this next question is a challenge because I don't like the wording of it. It's, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Okay, you know what, in all honesty, I have an idea of where I see myself in 5 years. Will it actually be there? Maybe. How do I know? Well, I look at where I was 5 years ago in all aspects of my life and say, could I have forecasted this? Some of it. So when we think about it from a work context, the default can sometimes we say, well, I want to be in leadership, right? Which says, I'm here for the long haul, or I find that growth is important to me, which is absolutely wonderful and great, right? But you want to dig a little bit deeper. And I find that one way of being able to answer this more effectively is removing years. Think of work as in phases. So for example, if you're in a situation where they ask you this question, how I would consider answering it would say, well, I could plan for 5 years in the future and I can have a strategy in place, but what I can't attest for are the variables between now and when I get there. So the strategy that I'm going to implement may or may not take 5 years to get, but I'll enlighten you on as to what my process is. So I see things as in phases. So if I'm the successful candidate that you choose for this role, my goal is to integrate as quickly as possible, learn what's required, understand the dynamics of everybody working on these projects, and do what I can to deliver what's expected. While doing this, I want to pay attention to what the business needs are, to determine where it makes sense for me to position myself, where I can add value. And in that process, we'll either try to find ways of exposing myself to different lines of business or improving my skill set through formal or informal training. From there, based on what I've learned and what I've accomplished, I'll be able to navigate better. I'll be able to navigate, in a sense, be able to find where I could make the most value, add the most value to the organization. Right? So if I'm adding value to the organization, what I'm telling my employer is between now and whenever I get there, my process is integration, do my job well, learn what the business needs are, and then pivot based on what the needs are, because that means I'm adding value and I'm getting out of it what I want. Now, your personal goal may be, this is a paycheck, I don't really plan on being here after a year or so, or better yet, until whoever else I'm in communication with gets back to me about another opportunity. But they don't need to know that information. Assume that whoever your audience is, your plan and your answer is pretty much talking about your process. Now, whether or not they are a part of it in 6 months, a year, or 5 years from now, that's up to time and that's up to other variables. But if you share your process and it comes across as very logical, then there's a higher likelihood they're going to really appreciate that way of being able to assess a situation. It'll show how you problem solve, And in essence, you're highlighting skills and competencies that they're guaranteed that they're looking for, and you're basically answering it in multiple questions. So when asked that question about 5 years from now, think about treating it in phases, and you'll wow them for a different reason, and they'll remember you. And that's the goal. You want them to remember you for a good reason, and that is definitely one of them. And I think that helps with being able to work past how to create a narrative around saying you want to be in maybe leadership without necessarily just saying something as general as that. So do take that into consideration. Replay this video a few times because I think this is a very hard question to answer. Hopefully it provided you with support. Stay tuned for the next part of this interview series, which will be uploaded shortly. And like always, everyone, I know I sound like a broken record, but please like, share, and subscribe. I really think that this will add value. I know it's already started to add value for me. This has been a wonderful experience, so let's keep it going, okay, everybody? I'll see you very, very soon. Bye for now.